celebrating junior bowling, elevating junior bowlers. This is Prodigy Bowlers Tour. Live on tape from suburban Atlanta, just north up Georgia 400 to Roswell, Georgia, and Brunswick Zone Roswell. This is Coach Randy, welcoming you to episode 90 of Prodigy Bowlers Tour. Today, it's the 2019 Atlanta Team Showdown. With 10 kids in our field, the math was easy. I arbitrarily selected 2 team captains, the 2 highest average bowlers who were present. Each one was tasked with drafting 2 handicap players and 2 scratch players from the pool of bowlers that entered the competition. So let's meet our 2 teams that are competing today. The captain of the first team is Nick Dissinger. His draft choices were Brandon Caraviti, Eddie Chon, making his first appearance on Prodigy today, Anthony Smiga, and last week's winner, Christian Manel. And the captain of our second team is Big Logan Mathis. His draft choices were Hayes Gabriel, Hunter Moffitt, Tristan Davis, and Gilbert Kang. These 2 teams will use the Prodigy Team format to determine a winner today. Here's how the Prodigy Team format works. There are 3 rounds in which the players will compete. In round 1, it'll be 5 on 5. The team with the higher total pinfall will be awarded 3 points. Then, in round 2, we'll bowl 5-man Baker, and the team that wins the best 2 out of 3 games will be awarded 3 points. So after the first 2 rounds, one team could be up 6-0, or we could be tied 3-3. Then in round 3, it'll once again be 5 on 5, but this time, each bowler will be competing for 1 match point against the player across from him. In other words, the 2 leadoff bowlers will be competing against one another for 1 match point. The bowlers who are second in their respective team lineups will be competing against one another for another match point. The third players in the lineup will compete, and so on. So there will be 5 individual match points available. Plus, the team with the higher total pinfall in round 3 will also get 3 points. So in all, they'll be bowling for a possible 8 points in round 3. So if one team heads into round 3 trailing 6-0, they can still win the competition by winning all 8 points available in round 3 by taking all 5 of the individual head-to-head matches. Or if they win 4 matches and take total pins, they would collect 7 points, and that other point would go to the team that already had 6 points going into the final round, and we'd end regulation in a 7-7 tie. That would send us to sudden death, where a 1-ball roll-off will decide it. When I first dreamed up this format about 4 years ago, I had high hopes that it would produce a close finish. It's certainly designed to do just that. But every single time we've used this format thus far, one team has gotten off to a 6-0 lead, and the team that was behind never staged much of a comeback, and the final score was always a total rout. For once, I'd like to see this format produce what I always hoped it might give us, a nail-biter. Anyway, it's time to get things started with round 1. This will be 5 on 5. The team with the higher total pinfall will be awarded the first 3 points of our 2019 Atlanta Team Showdown. Oh, and did I mention, we're bowling today on the World Bowling Association's pattern called Atlanta. A 38-foot pattern, Atlanta is a little on the short side, and with a 2.7-to-1 ratio, they won't get much help in terms of an oil line. And with almost 26 milliliters of oil compressed into just 38 feet of length, you'd have to say that where there is oil, there's a little more of it than you would ordinarily find. So Atlanta can play a little longer than its length would lead you to believe. Players might be well advised to ball up a little and go with a stronger cover stop than they might otherwise think is necessary to help smooth out the wet dry. Our 10 players meet near the ball return. and exchange the customary ceremonial handshakes to get things started. The two team captains have already chosen their lineups, putting the players in the order they want them to play, and looks like Hunter Moffett is going to lead off for Team Big. And that one comes up wide of the head pin. Eddie Chong. And that turns the corner, goes Brooklyn, and Eddie begins with a strike. So now Hunter will go for the washout, the 1-2-4-10. Move his feet about 7 boards right, throw it over his strike target. Oh, that was close. Wraps the head pin around the 10. I hate it when that happens. Brandon Caraviti.
Come on, Brandon.
And that ball comes up a little high, and he leaves the 6. Brandon throwing his plastic ball. Hayes Gabriel crossing over, missed the head pin left. And now he's got quite a cluster here. The left-handers picket fence. The 1-3-6-10.
Brandon, come on, dude. Let's make it.
Brandon will move left and shoot at the 6 pin.
Get it!
You hear it thumpity, thumpity, thumping over the holes. As Hayes chops the 1-3 off the 6-10. Next up, for Team Big will be Gilbert Kang as he wipes off his red ball. I believe that is a hot cell. See what he can do with it. And he gets a nosedive to go.
That is nothing to be proud of.
I got to learn that one.
How are you proud of that?
All right, Christian Manel starting his game on the left lane. And he crosses over, trips the 6, and gets a strike to start. Now up on lane 40, Tristan Davis. And Tristan crossing over, missing the head pin left, and leaves a few as Anthony Smiga gets up. That ball fails to get up to the head pin, and he's got the 1-2-8-10 washout. And he ain't waiting. He's going for it right now. And gets a little too much of the head pin, so that's an open for Anthony. As Tristan goes for the 1-3-6. And takes care of it. Well, you see in the black boxes above the two teams' bowling score sheets is a little scoreboard showing nothing to nothing. Those are the team scores that we're following. Nick leaves the soft 10 on his opening toss. And now Big Logan. Little thin, and he's got double trouble with the 2 and the sleeper 8. And Nick whiffs the 10. Usually a pretty good spare shooter, but this time that's 9 out and an unforced error. And Logan doesn't get the back pin. The sleeper 8 remains, so he's open in the first frame. And 10 players, only 5 marks. Not the start that about half of our players would have hoped for. And look at Hunter bury him in the second. Oh, boy.
That's okay. It's okay.
Eddie Chong wide with the first ball in the second frame. Got to be careful on this pattern. You can't go too wide. At least not if you're going to cross boards. You can play out there. You just don't want to throw it from left to right too far out there. Not like a house shot. You don't have the oil line to bump the ball off of. And look at this. The dreaded double gutter for Eddie in the second frame. So that's going to cost him mightily as Hayes goes for the 4-8. And it doesn't quite get up. So a couple of opens for Hayes to start. Oh, man, Brandon had that one peeking over the edge of the gutter, but it comes back and gets him 8 and leaves a relatively simple 1-2. And now Gilbert with a strike working. Chance for a double here. And he shreds the rack and notches the first double today. Brandon, a little off balance, not exactly like a ballerina out there, but he manages to stay behind the foul line and gets the spare. Now Tristan. High hit. Leaves the 6-10. And he goes to fetch another ball to shoot this. As Christian readies himself to throw his first shot in the second frame here on the right lane. Looks down to check his feet. And that was just never wide enough. And he's got the 3-9 double wood. Tristan, cross lane for the 6-10. And Tristan has been practicing this straight hand, flat hand, right up the back of the ball release. And I'm liking it. Christian wide with his attempt at the 3-9. And that's 8 out and an open. So Anthony up to try to get Team Nick rolling again. And he gets the 7 to go. In slow motion. Now Logan. Through the nose. Could have been worse. The 3-6-10. No bargain, but better than what it could have been. Nick also through the nose. And he too with a tricky spare, the 3-6-9. Both of these players with very choppable spares. Big Logan opting to hook at the 3-6-10, and he converts it. How will Nick play at this? He hooks at it and gets it with a crossover. That was fortunate. All right, Eddie Chong back up on the left lane.
Go! Right, here, left.
All right, you can understand why he'd be a little hesitant to throw it wide after back-to-back gutters in the second frame. That ball crosses over. And Hunter once again missing the head pin right on the right lane. This time no washout. He's got the 1-2-4-7. See what Eddie can do with the 9-pin here. Ooh. Well, he got just enough of it. You know, they say you don't have to power spares down, you just have to touch them, especially single pin spares. Well, Hunter, a little wide right with that one. You want to hit a little farther to the left on the 1-2 to get that spare, and he chops it.
Oh, yeah! Carry!
Brandon through the nose. That could have been just about anything. He's lucky to get 9.
The only chance I have to think is either a backup ball.
Hayes Gabriel goes through the nose, leaves the 3-6. Looks to me like Hayes is not quite letting go of the ball, like he's squeezing it. Seems like he's not getting out of the thumb hole clean. Could be a fit problem. Could just be that he's squeezing it. Look at Brandon Caraviti going one-handed at the 10. And Hayes misses the spare to the left, so he's still waiting for his first mark. As we move to the third players in the lineups. Christian will be next to go.
Go, ball! Yes!
And he slaps out the 10-pin for a strike. That's 2 strikes in 2 attempts on the left lane. Gilbert working on 2 strikes, trying to put a turkey up on the board. But that ball hooks high, and he leaves the 3-6-10. Anthony, just a little wide with that when the head pin goes to the left wall and accelerates off the wall coming back to the right and nearly got the 2 from behind. But he will have that single pin spare to shoot.
Here, you put that somewhere because I'm using it.
And he will put 1 ball away. Hope we've got enough bowling balls up there. There's 10 players. I think we've got 14 balls on the rack. Maybe a few more down below. There's a spare for Anthony. And now Gilbert for a tricky spare here. And that is well done.
Hey, Gilbert, can you take your serve ball off? Yeah, I got it back.
Now Nick up on lane 39. Good heavens.
Nick, if you do this, that state, I'm gonna hurt.
Pretty sure I've never seen Nick leave the 1-2-5. He threw that one out into Never Never Land. All right, Tristan working on a spare here in the 3rd. Left again, but this time he gets the crossover strike. And there is a well-executed spare by Nick Dissinger. Big Logan. Crunch, but with just 1 berry left on the tree. The 4-pin. As Hunter set to go here on the left lane. And the little man rips the rack. As Big Logan annihilates the 4-pin. All right, Hayes Gabriel up on the left lane. I think he's going to go ahead and wave on Eddie Chong. Eddie looked down like he thought that was gone into the moat, but it came storming back. Man, he can hook it. Hayes Gabriel a little wide with that one, leaves the 1-2-4. But did you see that ball by Eddie take a sharp left turn? Man, I think he thought it was in the gutter. I'm not so sure. I didn't think it was in the gutter. But it hooked up high. Boy, he can bend it, can't he? Get up. All right, there you go, Hayes. He breathes a sigh of relief, finally getting his first mark. Brandon misses the head pin left, and he's got the 1-3-6. Brandon kind of swinging the ball around his body. If he would learn to just swing it straight back, straight through, he would become a much more consistent player. All right, Gilbert up on the left lane. And that is right, dead, solid, perfect. And Gilbert with 3 strikes in 4 frames. I think you'd have to say he's bowling about as well as anybody right now. A little better, maybe. There's a spare for Brandon.
No, that's my seat.
And now Tristan up on the left lane, trying to put a double up on the board. But it crosses over, leaves the 5. An easy spare. Now Christian listening to his music. I'm looking for an alternative word for that. I don't think it's music, but he thinks it is. Leaves the 6-10. There's a spare for Tristan. So we've got 3 players who are clean through 4 frames. Brandon, Gilbert, and Tristan. And Christian misses the 6-10 to the right. Takes the 10 off the 6. So he now has 2 open frames. And we're seeing entirely too many of those. Anthony says, not from me this frame, you're not. As he slaps out the 10 for a strike. Big Logan loses 10 pins in count. He's on a spare. And now he's got all 10 to knock down for a spare in the 4th. Nick knew that was high as soon as it left his hand. I think he might have stuck at the line. But he left this earlier and made it crossing over. Big Logan for his spare. Crosses over, leaves the 6-10, and that's 8 out. So he now has 2 open frames. And so does Nick as he chops the 3 and 9 off the 6. You would think the kids in Atlanta would like to bowl on the pattern called Atlanta. We're not seeing that so much just yet. And look at Hunter bring that one back from Norcross. And Eddie says, well, if you can hook it, so can I. That one a little too much hook as it goes high, leaves the 3-6-10. All right, now Hayes up on lane 40. As he's working on a spare, he leaves the 5. An easy spare. No, Eddie's got the shot where he can flatten out his wrist and throw it straight. He could have used a little bit of hook on that one. And that's 9 out. Hayes with a spare in the 5th for back-to-back marks. And now Brandon moves over to lane 39. He leaves the 7 somehow. I don't know how. He threw everything at it. But that ball was rolling over the thumb hole. That ball has 3 holes, even though he doesn't use his thumb when he's two-handing it. He does when he's one-handing it. That won't be legal in 2020. The messenger fails to deliver the message to the 10-pin for Gilbert, so he's got a single-pin spare to convert, as does Brandon. Starting in 2020, you have to have no more holes in the ball than you are using fingers to grip it. So if you go with 3 fingers sometimes and 2 fingers at other times, you'll need 2 different bowling balls for that. But for now, it's okay. Gilbert converts the 10-pin, and now Christian's up on the left lane. Oh, man. Just a little too high. And he pays the penalty, leaving the 4-9. And I'd have to say he looks confused. Tristan, on the other hand, looks dialed in with that one. He's pulled a couple of shots left, but he hit what he was looking at that time. Christian for the split. And that wasn't close. Well, one of our other coaches, Coach Oren, and I were working with Christian after league and before we began today, trying to get Christian to soft hand the release, and he's just doing what he's always done, just trying to rip it, and he's just not very accurate that way. All right, Big Logan up on the right. Crosses over, gets a strike. As Anthony going for the 5, and he misses it. He missed it by 6 or 7 boards at least. All right, we're going to see a few of those today. As now Nick moves up to lane 39. And he comes up a little thin. He's got the 2-4-8. Look at Eddie bend it. My goodness. I don't think he was happy with that one, and I understand why. It went Brooklyn. But hey, managed to get a strike out of it. And Nick covers the spare, the 2-4-8. All right, now Brandon up on the right. And there's the 10-pin. Hunter working on a double. He tried to get a Brooklyn. Well, I don't know if he intentionally tried to get one, but the ball tried to deliver one. But he leaves the 6. Another single-handed release by Brandon. This time it's wide right and into the gutter. So Brandon with his first open of the match. Now Hunter for the 6-pin. Goes with his plastic ball, a T-zone, and covers the spare. All right, Christian, let's see if something here can put a smile on his face. He seems flummoxed. He's playing pretty deep inside for this pattern. Look at Hayes send this one wide, and it ain't coming back when you send it over there. Not unless you've got a much higher rev rate than what Hayes has. All right, Christian, cross lane at the 4-pin. And there's the spare. That's his first spare of the game. And Hayes takes everything off the 3 for another open. Now Anthony. Now he manages to break up the 3-9, and that could prove critical for him because the way spares have been scarce for some of these players, the easier you can make them, the better. All right, Gilbert up on the left. And that comes up just fractionally high. And he leaves the 4. Anthony goes with his plastic ball to convert the 9-pin and has no problem with it. And now Gilbert will go with his plastic spare ball as well to shoot at the 4-pin. And he takes care of it. Easy peasy. Nick plows him over. Well, again, they're bowling for total pins this game. We'll just add them up when we get to the end. And a stone 9 by Hunter. You wouldn't think a 12-pound ball could do that. And Tristan stuffs him straight back. And there's a double. So Gilbert and Tristan, the only two with nothing but marks. There's a spare by Hunter. As Big Logan moves over to lane 39 and takes him down. All right. Hayes Gabriel back up on the right lane for Team Big. Fell off balance a little bit to the right, leaves the 6-10. And Eddie Chong hooks high, tried to cross over, leaves the 6. He will go with a urethane ball for his spare ball. Hayes has a plastic ball and takes out the spare. And Eddie covers the 6-pin. Well, you'd have to do the math, and you'll probably do it quicker and better than I can do it, but it looks to me like Team Big has a bit of a lead here. But like I said, we'll add them all up when we get to the end of the game. And look at that. Gilbert. He's figured out this pair. There's a crossover for Brandon. One of the things I like most about these team showdowns is we get these players engaged and they're rooting for one another and they hoot and holler, and I kind of like that.
It's the best I've ever seen you do.
That looked good right off his hand. And Tristan now with the first turkey of the day. Tristan's moved out ahead of everybody. And Christian not a happy camper as that ball labored to get back. I think he just threw it too hard. But now he's got the 210. And he gets too much of the 2-pin. So another open for Christian. Anthony Smiga moves over to lane 39. Good heavens. That's, am I correct? That's 3 players now that have done that? One of them did it twice. Well, how about that one right there?
On the second ball, good spare, good spare.
Anthony goes with a urethane ball for his spare and gets the messenger. You might want to remember that one for later. I believe that's a fever pitch. All right, big Logan M up on the right. Got a double working. Make that 3 in a row. It's a turkey. So Tristan and Logan both with turkeys. And Nick wide. Leaves the 2. Remember, the team that finishes with the higher total pinfall this game will be awarded 3 points. There are no individual match points in play this game. That happens in round 3. Nick takes care of the spare as Eddie Chong lets one go, and he gets them all to crumble. And that is a strike in the 8th for Eddie. Eddie, a 151 average player. He's only been at it a little over a year. Hunter down on his knees for that one. But the ball doesn't quite get back. He leaves the 2-4-5. Oh boy. Well, Brandon had that one out to the edge. It took the long way around, the scenic route, as it were. But there it is, the granddaddy of them all, the 7-10 split. Hunter one-handed and misses to the right, and that's 8 out. And, well, it was a nice field goal for Brandon. All right, Hayes on a spare. And he crosses over, leaves the 5. An easy spare. Christian just trying to get anything going here. And he's wide again. The 1-2-8-10 washout. Hayes for the spare. And that one goes down easy. All right, Christian. Want to get the ball to the left of the head pin, knock it over into the 10. But instead, he hits it flush. And there's another open. Christian looks shell-shocked. All right, Anthony on a spare. And he stays with that fever pitch, and it rewards him with a strike. Now Gilbert. I'd say Gilbert has this pair all figured out. It's just a matter of execution with Gilbert. And I think maybe some of the other players who are still searching might want to pay attention to how Gilbert is playing the pair and take a cue from him. Tristan, he's got 3 in a row. Too high to get the 4th, leaves the 3-6-10.
Now we're down by 2.
All right, Nick. And he shreds the rack. Gonna try to put on a little rally here at the end. 3 members of Team Nick with strikes up in the 8th. And Tristan pulls that shot and misses all 3 pins, so that's an open in the 8th. And that gives Team Nick a little bit of hope. Now Hunter up in the 9th. Down to his knees again. And that was a pretty good shot right there. That could have gone, but the 10 pin remains. Big Logan rips it at the bottom, and there's our first ham bone. Yes, I said it. Can't believe I said it. All right. Hunter with an open, missing the 10 pin to the left. He's a little undecided between going for those right side spares one-handed or two-handed. He's kind of gone back and forth. He missed that one one-handed. Eddie almost brought that one back. Leaves the 2. Eddie may not have a lot of experience, but there's a lot of stuff to like about his game, I'll tell you. Little left of the mark for Hayes.
Get there! Yeah!
Never going to worry about whether Eddie's ball is coming back after the way I've seen him hook it today. All right, Hayes for the 1-3-6. Oh! Made that sudden left turn and missed them all. Through the nose, Brandon lucky to leave just 2. The 6-10. Fairly simple spare. looks like we've got a traffic jam at the front of the ball return. Gilbert going for a turkey. He knew as soon as he let it go that it was left of his target. He's not happy with it, but he got a strike. And a good conversion by Brandon. You never quite know what you're going to get with Brandon. He's still a little wild. He hasn't been bowling all that long, but he sure has fun at it. All right, Tristan has waved Christian on. And Christian doesn't get that one to come back. I think he's just playing the lane too deep. And Tristan missing left. Leaves the 3-9. Well, Christian's got the 1-2-8-10 washout. He goes with a different ball. I think he's changed balls already a time or two this game. Oh, man. Well, that's a little unlucky. Sent the head pin to the right wall, and it bounces back in front of the 10. Tristan not full enough on the 3-pin to get the sleeper 9. So a couple of opens there. And Anthony, I think he's finally found the right ball for this pair of lanes. Ever since he switched to that fever pitch, he's just been throwing strike after strike. All right, Big Logan up on the right lane. Completely off balance at the line. I think he's stuck. So his string of strikes stops at 4. As now Nick going for a double. And he turns away, but gets the Brooklyn. There must be something wrong with the approaches. Either they're slippery or sticky. I'm not sure which. Big Logan with a spare. Barely. And it does look now like Team Big has pulled out in front. But Hunter doesn't care. He's going to keep striking as long as they'll let him. All right, Eddie. See what you can do. Whoops.
I said you would do this today.
Well, that's 3 for him.
You're so rude.
And you can tell from his body language he is not digging it.
Don't make your head go down his face.
Hunter, that time the lightweight ball got him. He leaves the 5-7. A heavier ball would have driven through and at least got the 5.
Get in there, get in there.
A high hit for Eddie. He gets 8 out. So he will finish round 1 with a 132. And Hunter gets the 7-pin. The hard one. A high hit for Brandon. Leaves the 6-9-10. A little cluster over in the right corner of the lane. And now Hayes Gabriel up on lane 39. Hayes goes through the nose, and he's got the 6-10. Look out. Wave goodbye. 7 out and a 151 for Brandon. And Hayes falling off balance at the line. Gets 8 out, and that's a 117. So I think it's going to come down to Hayes or Christian for low score this game.
Get that spare ball off again.
Hey, yeah, get the front spare ball off.
Not that one.
No,
Christian up on the right.
No, we're going to track the spare ball.
And he leaves the 2-8-10 in the 10th frame. The last time we saw Christian leave the 2-8-10 in the 10th frame on lane 40 was in the final frame of sudden death at the first annual Prodigy TOC, and it cost him the coveted trophy pin.
That's me! All right.
And he had a similar reaction,
Yes, that was.
slapping the wall. 9 out, and the low score goes to Christian with a 116. Hayes, you're off the hook. Spare for Gilbert and a clean game. The only one. Anthony crossing over leaves the 5-10, the unusual 5-10 for a right-hander. We don't see that left very often on Prodigy. Not by the big kids. But he makes it! That's, as unusual it is to see it left, it's even more unusual to see it made. They never shoot at it. And a stone solid strike by Gilbert to finish with a good 225 game. Way to go, Gilbert. Anthony with 9 out on the fill ball. So you can see by the scores on the board, Hunter up by about 34 over Eddie. Brandon picked up about 35 or so over Hayes, and then Gilbert shellacking Christian by over 100, so that's where your margin is going to come from. This round 1 game is going to go to Team Big, and they're going to score the first 3 points of this competition. We just need to add them up at the end. Tristan with the 2-4-10 here. See if he can show us a trick shot. Not this time. No trick shots from Tristan today. Not yet, anyway. Maybe he'll get another chance later. There's a 10 pin for Nick. So he's going to end up with 191 with a conversion. Big Logan, a possible 205 with 3 strikes in the 10th. Well, so much for that idea. Nick going with the straight ball. That is a handy tool to have in your bag of tricks, to be able to throw it straight without having to go to a plastic ball. All right, Big Logan for the 1-2-8-10. And he whiffs them all. So that'll be a 177. And the final score, 851 for Team Big. Team Nick scores 764. So Team Big scores the first 3 points, and we move to the Baker round next. Hey, it's me, Coach Randy, with exciting news about a new way you can help support Prodigy Bowlers Tour. Over the past couple of years, we've had a number of Prodigy fans say they'd love to offer something in payment for the Prodigy content seen each week on YouTube throughout the bowling season. Well, I'm pleased to announce that Prodigy is now on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/Prodigy Bowlers Tour. Now, in case you're not familiar with it, Patreon is a platform where YouTube content consumers like you can connect directly with YouTube content creators like me and pledge a small amount of money each month to support the work that goes into creating the content that you enjoy watching. It's based on the age-old concept of patrons. About 30 to 40 hours of work goes into the production of each and every episode of Prodigy Bowlers Tour. So if you enjoy the content on Prodigy Bowlers Tour each week and you'd like to support the show, please check it out at patreon.com/Prodigy Bowlers Tour. There are 4 affordable subscription tiers, and each one offers a different reward, up to and including sneak peeks of shows before they're released to the public, exclusive behind-the-scenes content that only members will ever see, and there's even a tier that will enable you to get all that and get your name in the credits each week as a producer of the show. You'll be helping me to be able to continue making the show each week and even reinvest some of the money into improving the show going forward. Thanks for checking it out, and thanks for supporting Prodigy Bowlers Tour. So, with round 1 in the books, Team Big gets off to a 3-0 lead over Team Nick. If the past is prologue, that should bode well for Team Big's chances today. So far, every time we've used this Prodigy Team format, the team that won round 1 went on to win round 2, and then padded their lead in round 3 to finish with a lopsided victory. Certainly the members of Team Big should have their confidence buoyed after a dominating win in round 1 by a total score of 851 to 764. But that's all in the past now, as we turn our attention to round 2. This is the Baker round. If you're unfamiliar with the Baker format, one player will bowl frames 1 and 6, the next player will bowl frames 2 and 7, the next player will bowl frames 3 and 8, another player bowls frames 4 and 9, and your anchor bowler bowls frames 5 and 10. They'll stay on one lane for the duration of each game. It's best 2 out of 3 here in round 2. Whichever team is first to win 2 games will be awarded 3 points for the round. And you see the score sheet with the players' pictures above each frame, so the captains have selected the order. Hayes leading off for Team Big. And you also see the scoreboard indicating that Team Big with 3 points and Team Nick with no points. Now Christian will bowl lead off for Team Nick on the right lane. High hit. He also with the 3-6. And Hayes Gabriel with a spare in the first. So you see that Team Big has shuffled the order somewhat from what it was in round 1. And Christian chops the 3 off the 6, giving Team Nick an open frame in the first. But he will have an opportunity to redeem himself in the 6th. Now Hunter up in the 2nd. You heard Big Logan say push. He wanted that ball to get farther to the right. Eddie. Oh, man. That was close to going in again. That was hanging on the edge, but he got it all the way back to get a piece of the head pin, but now he's got a tough split. The 2-4-10. Hunter with a decidedly easier spare here, the 6 pin. Oh, but he hooks by. So there's an open. Now the 2-4-10. What can Eddie do with it? Well, he got one of them. And he's not happy about it. It's tough when you're not used to bowling in team competition because you don't want to let down your teammates. Tristan, quite familiar with this format. Oh, Brandon breaking up the split. Leaves just the 10. All of these players will bowl Baker when they get to college. If they bowl in any collegiate team bowling, Baker's pretty much all they bowl, and a few of these players have bowled Baker at USA bowling tournaments. Gilbert just recently at a USA bowling tournament. There's a strike for Gilbert. Hunter on a team that's already qualified for nationals at USA Bowling. Yeah! Well, they're yelling yeah, but that's going to be an open frame for Brandon. That bounced out of the gutter. Once the ball falls in the moat, it's dead, and any pinfall you get when it bounces out doesn't count. That's the rule. Big Logan.
Come on, Logan! Yeah!
And the Ripper. He rips the rack. Anthony staying with that orange urethane ball that has served him well the last few frames, but this time he goes high with it and leaves the 3-6-10. Hayes Gabriel up on the left. Are we at the 6th frame already? Yes, we are, and Hayes gets a strike. Oh my goodness. Another open frame for Team Nick, and they are not getting off to the start they had hoped. Whichever team wins the best 2 out of 3 Baker games will be awarded 3 points. And you can bet the Team Nick doesn't want to fall down 1-0 in the very first game of Baker. That would put them behind the proverbial 8-ball. All right, Nick up in the 5th. And he slaps out the 10. That's a big strike. Well, we asked Hunter to hold up. Team Big was getting way out ahead. Now, this is pretty common when they bowl Baker at USA bowling tournaments. Since they're not switching lanes every frame, one team can get way out ahead in terms of the number of frames they've bowled. I've asked them to hold up. You'd never see them get this far out of sync in a televised Baker match. Christian sends that one into Never Never Land, and he leaves what I like to call the Stone 1.
That's very rare.
Hey, we got that stone on camera. We can run offside after time.
You don't see the 1 pin left very often. Not by itself, anyway. One would argue this is about the simplest spare there is. You'd think he wouldn't have any problem with it. And he doesn't. He's not happy. All right, Hunter trying to make it 5 in a row for his team. But it comes up high and he leaves the 3-6-10. But they are way out ahead. There's a solid strike by Eddie. He's been all around the pocket. That one was knee-deep in it. Hunter shows him that he's a good spare shooter, converting the 3-6-10. And Brandon misses the building with that one. He said he pulled it a little. I'd say. All right, Tristan up in the 8. Team on a spare. And that one comes up fractionally high. But they are well on their way to winning this first game of Baker. And I'd say for Team Nick, the job right now is just find a line. You see the green 1 has gone up for Team Big. This game is in the books. They have 1 win in Baker. It's a race to 2. The first team to win 2 Baker games wins round 2 and 3 points. And Tristan whiffing the 4-pin. Wouldn't expect to see that. Anthony with a conversion of the 10. Kind of a moot point. Gilbert with that 225 game in round 1. He's already thrown a strike on his only other at-bat here in game 1 of round 2. So he has kept his stellar play going. That time he goes through the nose and leaves the 6-10. Now the next game they bowl in Baker, they will switch lanes. Team Big will be on the right lane. Team Nick will be on the left lane for the duration. And if it goes to a third game, they'll go back to where they are this game. Well, Gilbert, as soon as I said he continued his stellar play, he opens in the 9th, but really doesn't matter. Probably matters to him, though, I would guess. And there is a 2-8-10 in the 10th frame on the end lane, and I hope Christian wasn't watching. But like I said, this game was already out of the wood for Team Nick. There's a strike for Logan. Their team can finish with a 202 this game. The best Team Nick can finish with a miracle here, would be 138. I wouldn't count on it. He's throwing a backup at it. He actually got a piece of the 8-pin there. You heard Logan say it actually moved the 8-pin. He got a little wiggle out of it, but still it's an open, and it's 126 for Team Nick. Certainly not what they had in mind. And Big Logan leaves the bucket in the 11th, so with a spare here on the fill ball, 192. And he will just two-hand. That's Brandon's spare ball. Just anything to put this match in the books. 191 to 126 is the final score. So Team Nick, with their backs to the wall, they will try to win game 2 of round 2 next.
We're scouring the planet to see which sports will be in the Battle of the Buckets.
Welcome back to KFC's Battle of the Buckets, only on ESPN 8, The Ocho.
Very complex rules. You play your sport with a bucket on your head.
Even if you're going bowling. And when I think bowling, Kenny, I think the stuff they spray in the rental shoes, and I think Brad Angelo. He's already had one strike, Kenny. He did that one left-handed. He's going to do this one right-handed. I mean, how do you bowl without seeing the lane?
Here he goes. Bang!
How does he do that?
I don't know, why don't bowling balls have 5 holes? They would match up the human hand better.
Can his opponents even see what's happening? I guess the applause gives it away. Time now for our next bowler. Is he going to make it look as easy as Brad Angelo did? That's unfortunate.
Only so many Brad Angelos in the world. You know, judges shouldn't mock him for it.
Foul ball. Foul ball. Get it?
I get it.
Well, if you think you've had bad luck on the lanes, check out what happened here. Attempting the 3-7 split. This is in New York. Watch this. Watch what happens. The 3 hits the wall, gets the 7, and it slides all the way over to the 10-pin spot and never even thought about falling over. Well, we return to the scene of the crime now as Team Big takes their 3-0 lead into Game 2 of Round 2. They're up 1-0 in games in this Baker round. Team Nick must win this game or Team Big will own a 6-0 lead in the competition. And Christian starts with the 2-10, and that'll get his blood boiling, I promise. He got an open and a spare in his 2 at-bats on the right lane in the last game. Let's see what he can do with the 2-10. Well, he gave it a ride, but just missed a little too much on the 2-pin. All right, Hayes Gabriel. And there's a strike to get Team Big off and running in Game 2 of this second round. And now Eddie Chong up on the left lane. Crosses over. That could have been just about anything. He had the 3-9-10 up for a moment, but they all go down but the 3-pin, and he's got to be happy about that. Now, Hunter. He gets a Brooklyn strike, and Team Big with a double to begin this Game 2 of Round 2. And Eddie whiffs the 3-pin. So an unforced error there, and Team Nick not off to the fast start they'd hoped for here in Game 2. Well, at least for Team Nick, there is some solace to be had in knowing that Team Big's string stopped at 2. Brandon almost leaving another 2-10 combination. The 10 goes out. He's got the 2-4 as Tristan will have the 6-10 to contend with here. And he's got that end-over-end straight ball release working pretty well for him. I know he missed a spare earlier with it, but I'm liking what I'm seeing. Brandon whiffs the 2-4, and he hangs his head down. All right, Anthony. Switching balls. Leaves the 2-4-8. Meanwhile, Gilbert sticking with that same hot cell. This time he goes high with it. Nearly had the 4-6-7. A 6 went out. And a spare by Anthony, so they finally get a mark this game. But they had to wait 4 frames to do it. Again, if Team Big wins this game, they will grab the 3 points awarded in round 2 and will go up in this competition 6-0. Oh, and Gilbert pulled that one a little bit. Leaving the 4, and there's an open and a slight opening for Team Nick. And how did that 7-pin stay up? I think Nick thought he had caught a swisher, but instead he leaves the swishing 7. The head pin went to the wall and came back and stopped the 5 from going over and getting the 7. Well, that's a fine how do you do. Meanwhile, Big Logan gets the Big Brooklyn, just to rub salt in the wound. And look at this. Nick missing the 7-pin. And they just keep digging the hole deeper for themselves. All right. Hayes up on the right. Drifts high, leaves the 3-6-10. See if Christian can get untracked here. He says, wow. Something finally went right for him. All right, Hayes for the spare. And he gets it. This game not out of the wood yet. And Eddie tilts out the 10-pin. Well, look at this. Team Nick still with a possible 204 this game. Team Big going in a 195 pace. And Hunter with the big hook leaves the 6-10. And Brandon, well, if you didn't have bad luck, you wouldn't have any luck at all. The 7-10 split. And Hunter trying to go two-handed and throw it straight. He threw the ball straight all right, but straight into the gutter that time. Well, Brandon has figured out how to make a 10-pin anyway. But this is getting away from him fast. And Anthony into the weeds with that one for a 3 count. And what is going wrong with Team Nick here? And Tristan says, I'll jump on that. And another open frame, 119, and it is getting close to being the end of round 2 now. The best Team Nick can do is 149. And I believe that Gilbert is going to put 3 more points on the board for his team, probably with this ball. Hello. That'll put them in the 150s if they throw nothing but gutter balls the rest of the way. So you see the scoreboard now reflects that Team Big with 6 points in this competition. They have their second game won in this round 2, the Baker round. So we're just finishing out the game now to get the final score. But Team Nick, with their backs to the wall now. Nick with a spare, he makes the 310 the hard way. And if anybody in our group can make the 4-6-10, it would be Big Logan. He's the one player with the velocity to bounce one out. But not this time. So Team Big finishes with a 174. That is more than enough to capture game 2 of round 2. So Team Nick will be in a must-win situation in round 3 as Nick finishes off this second game of round 2. They're going to finish with a 138. But Team Nick is looking to stage the greatest comeback in the history of Prodigy Team competition. They need 7 or 8 points in round 3. Good luck.
One pin away from locking first place!
Well, it appears that the 2019 Atlanta Team Showdown is shaping up about like all the other Prodigy Team Showdown events we've staged before. The same team that won the opening 5-on-5 round 1 then went on to win the Baker round 2. In this case, 2 games to none. And now Team Big takes a 6-0 lead into the decisive 3rd and final round. But Team Nick mustn't lose hope. Despite being down 6-0 in the overall team score, it's still possible for them to stage a comeback. But it'll take a feat never before achieved in a Prodigy Bowlers Tour Team Showdown. To review, here's how round 3 works. It's 5-on-5 like the first round. But this time, each individual player will be competing for a single match point against the player across from them in the lineup. Player 1 will be bowling against player 1, player 2 against player 2, and so forth. There are 5 individual match points at stake. Plus, the team with the higher overall total pinfall in round 3 will receive an additional 3 points. So in all, there are 8 points in play in round 3. With Team Big in the lead 6-0, Team Nick will need to win all 5 matches to win the competition. But they can force sudden death if they can win 4 head-to-head matches and take total pins. Anything less, and it'll be Team Big that claims the win today. The captains have set their lineups, and we're ready to go. All 4 times we've used this team format, the team that got off to a 6-0 lead went on to win in a lopsided match. The 2 times we've done it on Prodigy, Team Terrell defeated Team Panda 13-1, and the next year Team Terrell defeated Team Lofo 13-1. So we've never seen this finish close. I'd love to see that happen today. Hunter with a stone 9 to start. And Eddie leading off for Team Nick leaves the 3-6. For whatever reason, each time we've done this format. The same team that won the opening round went on to win the Baker round. And with that 6-0 deficit, I don't know if it just made the other team feel like it was hopeless, but they just never staged much of a comeback. There's a spare by Eddie. And Hunter converts the 9-pin. So Team Nick trying to do what's never been done before and stage a comeback and make this close. All right, Brandon. He's moved a little left with his feet this time. Played it a little straighter. Gets the crossover. Uh-oh. And Hayes lets that one get away. So once again, it's going to be Eddie versus Hunter, Brandon versus Hayes, Christian bowling against Tristan, Anthony and Gilbert, and then Nick and Big Logan going at one another. And Christian starts with a ripper. And that'll make him feel a little better. All right, Hayes, let's see what you can do about this one. Well, it's going to be an open frame to start. These two team captains labored at length over the order to put their players in, trying to get the best matchups. There's a strike by Anthony. That'll get Gilbert's attention when he finally gets up. And Tristan with a crossover. So suddenly some of these players have come alive. And when we get to the second half of this match, we'll put the plus figures up to keep track of how far up the leading player is in each match. And a crossover by Gilbert. So the pins suddenly have gotten a little easier to knock over. Nick going with the hoodie up look today. Big Logan. And he gets the two from behind on a light hit. Hello. And Nick gets the 7 to drop late. Giving us the unibowler look. All right, back to the leadoff players. Hunter up on lane 39. And a solid strike for the little guy. And Eddie tries to get a crossover, but the 6-10 remain. So he'll have a little cleanup duty.
That's the most pressure I've seen all day. 7.
He'll go cross lane at this. And he gets it.
Let's go!
So the players have come alive here in round 3, both on the lanes and on the bench.
We have one prize. We're going to win. It's unweighted, okay?
Little trash talking going on. And Brandon can't contain himself, so he decides to start over. That's the best shot we've seen today by Hayes. as he plants that one right in the pocket. Well, it seemed an odd choice today for Brandon to throw his plastic ball on this pattern, but that's been his selection. And look at this. That is a foul, ladies and gentlemen. As Brandon falls head over heels. Well, we've talked about it before. He sometimes gets to the foul line and his trail foot gets higher than his head. And I pointed out to him, it's kind of hard to stay in balance when your head is below your feet. But I think in his defense, he may have stuck at the line that time. Although he's really a planter anyway, not a slider, so it shouldn't matter.
You gotta reset it, bro. You can't do that.
All right. Brandon just can't seem to gather himself. So Tristan will go. And I don't know if all the extracurricular activity had anything to do with distracting Tristan, but he's a pretty calm guy. Likes to keep to himself. I don't know if this is all that conducive to his style of play, but Tristan will probably contain himself. I've never seen him when he was uncontained. All right, Brandon for the spare. How about that? A foul and a spare. And look at this. Maybe it did have some effect on Tristan. It certainly got him out of his rhythm. He was ready to go earlier to shoot that spare, but waved it off. Christian changing channels or something on his phone. And I think he's concerned because he's listening to his tunes on his phone. And now Big Logan has his phone. So he's liable to hit pause right in the middle of Christian's backswing. Well, that's what you get for listening to music while you're bowling. Doesn't matter. He gets the crossover. And now Gilbert up on lane 39. Another crossover. Well, there must be a track worn to the left side of the head pin. I think all these guys would do well to move their feet a little left. 2 or 3 boards, bring their eyes a board or 2 left. There's a conversion of the 610 by Anthony. And a strike by Big Logan. So Big Logan, Gilbert, and Christian all with doubles out of the gate. And Nick says, I got 1 too, right here. So we're back to the top of the order. Eddie Chong on the left lane, working on a spare.
Get there!
And how about that one right there? Hunter with a strike up. But that one hooks high on him, and he leaves the 3. Brandon following that improbable spare.
Trip it! Okay, that's good.
Comes up thin, leaves the 2.
Thanks, Dick. Hey,
But he manages to stay behind the foul line this time at least.
It'll be better tomorrow.
All right, Hunter for the spare. Went to the other rack to get his plastic ball, and that was a wise choice. All right, Brandon for his spare. The fist went up in the air. He knew it was good. All right, Hayes working on a strike. And he gets a Brooklyn to double up. So Hayes pulls to within 3 pins of Brandon. Remember, they're bowling for match points. Eddie against Hunter, Brandon against Hayes, Christian against Tristan, Anthony against Gilbert, and Nick against Big Logan. 5 match points available, plus 3 more for total pins. Christian with a 9 count. And Tristan got around that one a little too soon, and it finishes high, and now he's got a difficult spare, the 3, 6, 9, 10. It'll be interesting to see how he shoots this as the hands go up. Betting that Christian might miss the 5 pin, and I don't think Christian's going to miss many 5 pins. All right, Tristan, for this tricky cluster, how's he going to shoot it? He tries to hook at it, and it doesn't quite finish enough, and he leaves the 9. Anthony, back with that urethane ball on the left lane, and he stuffs him straight back to stay close to Gilbert, who's working on a double. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And that just brought that match even. In fact, Gilbert needs to spare up to stay even. Way left for Nick. He's thrown some wild ones today. Very uncharacteristic for him. And that's the second time today we've seen the 5-10. Anthony left it earlier and made it. All right, Gilbert. A spare here to keep this match even with him and Anthony. And he gets it. Oh, that was close. That couldn't have missed by more than about 1/4 of an inch. But it's an open frame for Nick. And now Big Logan with the advantage in that anchor match. But he almost left the 5-10. The 10 goes down, and now Hunter.
Heads and toes. Heads and toes.
So he's got the 2-8 left. And again, the hands go up on this 5-pin. He did miss one earlier today. Not this time. And if he did miss it, good luck collecting on that round of Cokes. Oh, and Hunter just hooks by the face of the 2-pin enough to send it to the right of the sleeper 8, and there's an open frame. And now, Eddie Chong up on the right lane. That's left. But he gets the crossover.
I'm using blasting. I can still hear you. Good. Shut up.
All right, Hayes got a double working. And that looked pretty good coming off his hand. It just didn't drive through quite like he'd like.
Hey, that's more than a week.
The 5 did finally fall, but for an instant he had the 4-5-7 peeking at him. But the 4-7 decidedly easier to convert. And he's going to go to another rack and find a different ball to shoot this, I believe. That's his spare ball. And it hooks a little too much. So an open for Hayes. And now advantage Brandon in that match. But with shots like that, Brandon might just try to hand it right back. All right, Tristan, after back-to-back opens, trying to get back up on the horse. And he rips the 5 into the 7 and carries the swisher. And Brandon chops the 1 off the 3 and sends his hat flying. I think Big Logan has that move already copyrighted. Not sure.
You're having to do it. Someone's got to take your place.
Logan just said, hey, wait a minute, that's my thing. And it looked to me like Gilbert made a big move to the left that time. Leaves the 3-10. Christian up on the right, working on a spare. And he gets the trip 6 on a crossover. Too much 3-pin for Gilbert, and there's an open frame. And some cracks in the dam of Team Big. And look at this, Anthony with the unusual 1-5-8-9, the T formation. You don't see that every day. Now there's one you do see every day, the ringing 10. And how in the world did the 9 stay up? So Anthony with an open frame. And he is now locked in a tight one with Gilbert, up by a pin. Brandon up by 3 over Hayes. Nick misses way left, leaving, well, he left the 2-pin standing that he was trying to hit, the 1-3. And Big Logan whiffs the 10-pin. What in the world? So now if Nick can convert the 1-3, he's going to be within 3 pins of Logan. And there you go.
It was on the second shot.
So Christian with a pretty big lead over Tristan right now. Eddie with about a 30-pin lead, or I beg your pardon, a 20-pin lead over Hunter at the moment. Oh my goodness gracious, that's another stone 9 by Hunter. I think he learned that one from Nick. All right, Eddie on a double. How about 3 in a row?
He's Eddie. That's my teammate.
And Team Nick putting on a charge here.
What do you mean? I'm the one that chose him.
Hunter with a spare in the 5th. When we get through the 5th frame, we'll put the plus numbers up to show you exactly where all the matches stand as Brandon carries a crossover. All right, Hayes leaves the 2-5. He'll need to convert that to stay within 3 pins of Brandon. Christian can put a little distance between himself and Tristan if he can put a double on the board here.
Get it! Shoot it! Get it!
But instead he goes high and leaves the baby split. The 3-10. Get up. It does. And so Hayes, with a spare in the 5th, stays within 3 of Brandon.
Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up!
Christian doesn't listen to his teammates who are cheering him on there. So that open frame makes his match with Tristan a little tighter. And that crossover strike by Tristan makes it tighter too. Ooh. Nearly a pocket 7-10. The 10 goes out thanks to the messenger. And Anthony breathes a sigh of relief as his match couldn't be much closer with Gilbert. He leads by 1 stick. And Gilbert gets a crossover. How many of those have we seen today? Anthony with a spare. So their match remains super close. And this time the trip 6 doesn't quite materialize for Big Logan as he leaves the 6. And Nick rips him apart, as I don't know what that hand gesture was by Big Logan. I think he was trying to put some sort of voodoo curse on Nick's ball that time. Didn't work. May have backfired, in fact, as Big Logan whiffs the 6-pin, and suddenly Nick takes the lead. And now we give you the plus numbers, and look at this. Team Nick is leading all 5 matches. If they win all 5 matches, they will win this competition coming out of literally nowhere.
Come on, get it!
Remember, there are 8 points in play this round 3. 1 point for each individual head-to-head match, and 3 points for team total pins. Hunter, after throwing one in the gutter, gets 8 out, as Eddie takes care of the 3-6-10, and now Eddie in a commanding position in his match against Hunter, 50 pins ahead, mostly on the strength of that turkey he threw in frames 3, 4, and 5, but helped by a couple of opens by Hunter. So now Brandon and Hayes in a tight match, just 3 pins separating them. Hayes gets 9 on that spare, so the lead will grow to 4 pins. And somehow Brandon gets the 5-10 to cave in on a runaway Brooklyn to give him a double, and now the lead in that match is 14. Hayes converts the spare so it doesn't grow any larger than 14. But we've got quite a story developing here. We've never seen the trailing team down 6-0 make a game of it in this team format. Every time we've done this format, the team that won the first round won the second round. So it's always been 6-0 in favor of one team going into round 3, and the trailing team has never come back. Oh, man. Have we seen some stone nines today? Look at Tristan get that ball to hold like it's on a string, and he just made this match even between himself and Christian. There's a spare by Christian. Gilbert breaks down the bucket to just the 8-pin. He's got to be breathing a sigh of relief over that. But look at Anthony put another solid strike on the board, and I think Team Nick is starting to feel it. If they sweep all 5 matches, they will win. Oh my goodness. And Gilbert smacks his hand into the ball return. I hope he didn't hurt himself. He's more likely to hurt his hand than he is the ball return. But that open frame gives Anthony a 13-pin lead. And Nick wide with his strike attempt. And now he's got the 2-10. And that 8-pin lead over Big Logan in jeopardy. Logan, with a high hit, could have left most anything. Lucky to come away with a 9 count. That is way too much 2-pin. And an open frame for Nick, and he hands the lead back to Big Logan. So we've got 3 matches being led by Team Nick. 1 that's dead even. And Team Big leading 1 match. Okay, the 1-3-6-10. Now you may think that Hunter down by 50. Well, Eddie with another solid strike. You'd think that Hunter down by 50 might be just going through the motions here, but remember, total pins are in play here. They're worth 3 points. So Hunter should get all he can. Oh, man. Could have gone from the outside like that. That's not the way we recommend shooting it, but an open for Hunter, so that match, the gap grows wider. 61 pins now. Eddie in front of Hunter. All right, Hayes working on a spare. The 9-pin won't go on that Brooklyn hit. So Brandon's 12-pin lead becomes 13. And some sound effects from the peanut gallery cracks Brandon up. And he has to stop. He's a giggly guy. That's all I can tell you.
Come on, Brandon! What are you doing?
Well, that didn't help. He just handed the lead to Hayes. And Hayes, with that spare, says thank you very much. And if things end the way they set up right now, Team Big will take this competition. Remember, Team Nick needs to win all 5 matches, which of course would give them total pins, to win the competition. If they win 4 matches and take total pins, and the other match goes to Team Big, we'll have a 7-7 tie. And that would go to sudden death. Christian with a big strike in the 7th. But now Tristan working on a double. He's got 3 in a row. But with a double working, if he can strike here, he can take a 10-pin lead in their match. But that's wide. And so he loses 3 pins in count, and Christian takes a slight lead. Anthony with another strike. He extends his lead over Gilbert to 23. And that could be huge, because Gilbert has been bowling lights out most of the day. There's a spare from Tristan, so he stays close with Christian. So Gilbert knows if he wants to get back in his match with Anthony, he needs to start striking. Oh, he gave that one plenty of room. And man, did it ever come back. He shakes him up, and that sets him up to make a run here in the closing frames. So our 2 anchor bowlers separated by just 4 pins at the moment. And how in the world did Big Logan get all 10 pins to fall on that hit? He should be ashamed of himself. But he's going to take it, I promise you. All right, Nick. We'll try to throw one right in the hole here. But instead it drifts high. And he's got the 3-6. Eddie with a big lead right now. He is accounting for the advantage in total pins going to Team Nick right now.
Let's go, Ed. Ed.
That ball drifts high, and he's got the 3-6. And Nick sticks at the line, or slips, or something. He was way off balance, and that's another open frame. And now Big Logan with a 15-pin lead. Hunter tries to shake him up on the Brooklyn side and leaves the 6-9. There's a spare by Eddie, and he will maintain that 61-pin lead, assuming that Hunter converts this spare. And I think the giggles have gotten the best of Brandon. We may be about to lose him. Hunter going one-handed at this spare, and a wise choice as he converts the 6-9. Well, Brandon would be well advised to try to gather himself, because his team captain, Nick, is in trouble in his match. If Brandon can win his match, they've got a good chance of going to sudden death.
What are you doing?
But there is the 3, 6, 9, 10. Hayes goes wide and leaves the 1, 2, 4, 8.
I'll try my best.
Okay, Bob Anthony, shut up. We're making a match of this.
So I think chaos has broken out with these bowlers. It's been a long day. They bowled Junior League this morning, and now this.
Get close. Get it.
Well, you got to hit the pin in front on every spare, and that's an open for Brandon, and he just handed a bigger lead to Hayes, who, look at this, is going to hand it right back.
What the hell?
And with that open frame, The match is back in Brandon's hands.
What is that? Oh my God! Brooklyn!
Christian begging it to carry, but no.
Look who it is!
He's going to have the 5-pin and a bunch of hands going up. That's how you carry the Brooklyn and blow the 5, the reverse blower. And Big Logan is telling everybody about it. There is a spare for Christian. He'll take it as his match remains close. We're getting down to the end now. Another high hit by Gilbert. He needed a strike there to cut into Anthony's lead. Anthony goes Brooklyn, but leaves a fairly routine spare. Routine in that it's not hard to convert, not so routine you don't see it all that often. Ooh. Gilbert gets the 3-6-10, but barely. And Anthony chops the 5 off the 9. So that makes their match closer, and it brings it to within a mark. So 3 of these matches could go either way. And with that strike by Big Logan, he extends his lead to 25. So that gives him a little bit of a pad going into the 9th and 10th against Nick. Well, this is shaping up in very interesting fashion. Nick breaks up the 6-7-10 split. The 7 goes out, but he's still got the 6 and 10. A whole lot easier than the split. And Eddie goes high flush again. They're calling him the MVP. He gets the first W of the day for Team Nick. And that puts 1 point on the board for Team Nick. So at least they will avoid the shutout. Brandon with a 9 count. That's 7, stubbornly refusing to go on a light shaker. Hunter would just like to cut into their lead a little bit, make it somewhat more plausible that Team Big could somehow steal total pins in the closing moments, although it looks like it is getting close to being out of reach. Brandon with a spare in the 9th. Still not impossible, though. Not sure where Hunter went. Christian with that 3-pin lead, working on a spare. Gets another Brooklyn. We have seen some Brooklyns go today. And look at this. We've got a pin under the rake, and now it's in front of the rake. Hunter gets the spare. And that pin in front of the rake on lane 39 got knocked into the gutter, and Anthony's not even going to worry about it. He's just going to go. And he leaves the 4. Hayes trying to get that runaway light Brooklyn shaker, but the 6-9 stays up. Anthony takes out the 4-pin. So for the time being, at least, he maintains his 9-pin lead. But these 3 matches are going to decide how this thing goes today. Hayes just misses the 6, and That gives Brandon a bit of an edge heading into the 10th. Nick trips out the 6, so that 9 count will make the spare a little easier. But again, he's trailing by 26 to Big Logan. Tristan, in the closest match of all of them, trailing by just 3 against Christian, and he's got to strike up. But this time he goes high and leaves the 3, 6, 9, 10. And we've got another pin out in front of the rake now, thanks to that one by Nick. And this time it's not going to get kicked into the gutter to get out of the way, so we're going to have to go get it. So Tristan for the spare. Oh, and somehow he got them all to go. That looked like chop suey to me, but now Mr. Big will head down the catwalk.
Actually, they're taking too long. I just wanted to hurry up.
And we've got a couple of pins on the lane, one in the gutter and one right in front of the rack of pins. Just a picture of grace, ain't I? I've asked Hunter to send me his ball. Slowly.
Hello. Hi.
So I'm going to send that one down, and it triggers the rack. So now we've got to wait for it to cycle. And then I will toss the other pin and the ball through the rack. The pin that's on the pin deck is a little out of reach. The masking unit sits out. Well, okay, I managed to grab it. See what I can do from here. I can throw strikes from this distance. Oh, no, I can't. Stone 8. Just like the good old days. It's the best shot I've thrown all year, I promise. All right, back to the throws that matter. Gilbert working on a spare. And he rips the rack. So he sets himself up for the 10th frame. And now he'll have a chance to win no matter what Anthony does in the 10th. Hunter crossing over leaves the 1-3-6. Big Logan got a double working. He can extend his lead to 36. A little high, 4-pin. How many times have we heard that with Big Logan bowling on lane 40? Not a critical situation this time, however, as a simple spare should lead him down to an easy path to victory in his match. Hunter chops the 1-3 off the 6, so his day is done. Look at this. Big Logan misses the 4, and suddenly that makes their match a little more interesting. Just 13 pins separating Logan and Nick. That could go either way, you just don't know. Eddie with the only point so far by Team Nick, but we're about to find out how this 2019 Atlanta Team Showdown is going to shake out. There is a crossover by Eddie in the 10th for another strike. Hayes, trailing by 17, needs to make something happen here. Well, it came off his hand pretty good. That almost got back. But he leaves the 2-4-5, so the best he can do is 151. Brandon can beat that with good count on his first ball. Another strike by Eddie. And assuming he doesn't do something crazy on his fill ball, he's going to be in the 230s. There's a spare by Hayes. So he keeps the possibility open for an improbable win, but it's looking like Brandon is probably going to take that point. And look at this, a 151 average player shoots 235 on a sports shot on Prodigy. How about that? There's a solid finish by Hayes, and that's got to make him feel a little better. He didn't bowl quite the way he wanted to today, but that was a credible game there and a decent finish. So now Brandon just needs good count on this ball, and he's going to walk away with the team's second point. And that ought to do it right there. That'll give him 147 in the ninth, 156 if he misses it. So there's another W, and you see the second point has just gone up. Uh-oh. Tristan in a tight match with Christian. This is the closest match we've got going. If Tristan, well, look at this. Brandon, it doesn't matter. He's already won his point. If Tristan could somehow win this match with Christian, that would put the real squeeze on Team Nick.
How about this?
Oh, man, what a shot. And he takes a hard high five from Big Logan. Tristan better check and make sure he's got all 5 fingers left.
Do you know how happy I got when you left that?
You realize?
Do you know how sad I am now?
Yeah, Christian with a little good-natured kibitzing with Tristan, but I'll tell you what, Tristan's conversion of that split just put Christian in a squeeze. He must mark to win his point. That's how big that split conversion was.
Go Brooklyn!
And another crossover strike. And I'm sure that'll meet with Tristan's approval. Not.
Come on. Wow, look at that.
And that one just didn't really matter much. Christian just needs to keep the ball on the lane now and stay behind the foul line. We've seen a little bit of everything today. We've seen gutter balls, fouls, and a strike when he needs one. And that one gives Christian his point. And look at this, the strike was also enough to give Team Nick total pins in round 3. So that's 3 more points. This thing is tied up. Oh, and that 8 count means Gilbert doesn't get the double in the 10th. A double there would have given him the lead in his match. That could prove huge at the end. This thing is all knotted up. Look at this. Anthony is leading 1 match. Big Logan is leading 1 match. If these last 2 matches go the way they look like they're going, we're going to end up in a tie. And that would send us to sudden death. Well, this has never happened. Ooh. He almost hooked by. All right, Anthony's going to need a mark. Ooh, and he went through the nose. That could have been a 6, 7, 10. Anthony lost a championship match on Prodigy a few weeks ago when he went a little high in the 10th and left the 4-9. Had to make it, nearly did.
Get it! Get it! Yes!
But that mark is going to do it, pending some sort of crazy thing here on count. As it is right now, Anthony leads by 7. So if Anthony would foul or throw it in the gutter, Gilbert would need 8 on the fill ball to win. But if Gilbert strikes, Anthony will just need 4. And he gets 7. So Anthony needs just 1 pin and stay behind the foul line, young man. And so it comes down to the very last match. Right now, Team Nick has taken the lead 7-6. How about that? As Anthony takes the 4th point, well, the 7th point actually. Christian took the 3rd point and the 4th, 5th, and 6th points. So right now, Big Logan must win his match or Team Nick will have staged the most improbable of all comebacks, as we just saw the lights in the bowling center flicker off and on, as if we needed a Twilight Zone moment. All right, Big Logan. Oh, stone 9, like a punch in the gut. But all right, let's figure it out. Nick can throw 3 strikes in the 10th and shoot 180. Big Logan, if he makes this spare and gets 8 on the fill ball, will shoot 181. So that's his mission right now, to shut Nick out with a spare here and an 8 count or better. And he's got the spare banked. So now it comes down to 1 ball. Eight, 9, or 10 on this ball. And Big Logan secures the 7th point for his team. And that will send this to sudden death, no matter what Nick does in the 10th. If he gets 7, Nick can get up and throw 3 strikes and tie, and that would give Team Nick the win. Oh, he fouled! He fouled! You're kidding me! I'm not sure everybody even noticed it, but because the light didn't go on. But Nick can win this with 2 strikes. There's 1. You are kidding me. We will get another look at it, but my goodness gracious, well, it comes down to this ball. If Nick strikes here and then gets 4 on the fill ball, Team Nick comes back and wins this. Oh, man. So Big Logan wins the last point. Wow. So we end in a 7-7 tie, and that's going to send this thing to a roll-off. And Nick just throwing that one away. It didn't matter. He finishes with a 169. Big Logan with a 173. Watch, this is the ball that gave Team Nick a chance. And Big Logan, he's looking down at his foot. He sees that he crossed the foul line. And we don't have the best angle here, but he told me he fouled. He knew he fouled. Here's the shot of the day right here. Tristan in the 10th frame. When his match was close, he really needed this to have much chance at all of winning. And that's the first 6-7 split or 4-10 split we've seen converted on Prodigy in a couple of years. The last time we saw one, it was Dakota at our first team showdown. But now here's the situation.
Which lane do you want to go on? He will also
Team Nick took 7 points out of the available 8 in round 3. The last point went to Team Big, which began round 3 with 6. So we're in a tie here, and the sudden death roll-off protocol works like this. It'll be a one-ball roll-off. The teams select the order of their players, must use all their players before repeating any one if we go through all 5. A coin toss will be held to determine the order of play, and every player who throws a shot will get his choice of which lane he's going to throw the ball on. So nobody will have any sort of advantage or disadvantage as far as the lane is concerned.
Christian on the right.
So it's going to be Team Big.
I am too. All right. Hold on.
Have we already? Yeah, I think we've determined the order, or maybe we haven't. I'm not sure. But we're going to flip a coin and determine the order, and I believe that coin flip has already happened. Maybe not. I think they're about to flip it. We may have to flip the names back. Somebody has called tails, and it is a tail. And Big Logan is saying, I want to go first, so we had the order correct. So Big Logan will throw one ball, and then Christian, his team has decided to send him out first in the order. A 9 count. So Christian can win it and complete the greatest comeback ever in Prodigy Bowlers Tour team history if he can throw a strike right here.
Come on! Come on! There you go!
Oh!
Logan, who's second?
That was almost a losing ball there with an 8 count, but instead we go to the next player in the order, and we see Gilbert could have hit the reset button, but instead he throws a backup ball to just cycle the pin setter. Who's up next?
Who's after Christian? I need a decision.
Captains need to decide who's going to go next for their teams. Now, Team Big will go first again.
You have your choice of lane. Which lane do you want to bowl?
It's going to be Gilbert. It's his choice which lane he's going to throw the ball on.
Anthony, which lane do you want to bowl on?
And he has chosen the right lane. And I believe Anthony has already selected the left lane. He is being sent as the next bowler for Team Nick. So here you go. Gilbert. Oh boy. An 8 count. So Anthony with a chance to win it for Team Nick right here. He needs 9 or a strike. Oh no! And that's it. Team Big takes the sudden death roll-off, and they hold off Team Nick. The comeback falls short, and we'll see the winners sign the pin next.
To the equitable agent, no two people are alike.
Is there anyone else in the whole human race with your kind of style and your kind of grace?
No two people are exactly alike, and that's what the equitable agent never forgets. All his training and thinking are shaped around you and your life insurance needs. To the equitable agent,
there's nobody else exactly like you. Nobody else like you. この怪獣ボーリングゲーム、狙いもピンセットも一人で OK だよ。ブルマークの怪獣ボーリングゲーム。
Finally, the Prodigy Team format produced the kind of close finish I always hoped that it would. Even though Team Big won rounds 1 and 2 and got out to a 6-0 lead, Team Nick came storming back in round 3, capturing 4 of the 5 available match points and winning total pins to tie up the competition at 7 points apiece, sending the 2019 Atlanta Team Showdown to a sudden death roll-off. It took a couple of frames before Gilbert Kang threw the winning ball to fend off Team Nick's comeback and tip things in favor of Team Big. To hear them tell it, you'd think they were never worried, even a little bit. But I think we all know better. Still, it was a fascinating competition with lots of twists and turns. And how about Eddie, who made his first appearance on Prodigy? A 151 average player uncorking a 235 game on a sport shot in round 3 and setting the pace for his team's big comeback, only to have it come up just short at the end. We'll probably have one more team showdown in June. Oh, and speaking of June, we're firming up a few plans for these final few months of Prodigy Season 3. On Easter Saturday, we'll be visiting AMF Woodstock, so if you bowl over on that side of Atlanta, check us out at around 1 p.m. Easter Saturday. And a reminder to everyone who wants to come visit Prodigy, our final episode of the season will be recorded on Saturday, June 29th. That's the last Saturday before the 4th of July. It'll be the 3rd annual Adult Youth Scotch Doubles 9-pin no-tap Race to 300 on the house shot. Bring your mom and dad, bring your coach, heck, bring your local pro, but bring your A-game. Everybody's invited. That's Saturday, June 29th at Brunswick Zone Roswell in Roswell, Georgia. This is Coach Randy saying that's it from the 2019 Atlanta Team Showdown, where Team Big outlasted Team Nick in sudden death today. We'll see you next week on Prodigy Bowlers Tour.